Travel and Things in association with Sun Destinations, iconic destinations with amazing experiences, present In Conversation With. I am your host today, David Batsoffen, and joining me is Marc Eugene Lottering, all the way from Cape Town. Marc, good morning. Welcome to you.
Good morning. Good to be chatting to you. Nice to hear my full government name there.
One day in private, I'll tell you mine, but not for this conversation. Marc, you're about to come to Johannesburg. You open here on the 2nd of September. Tell us a bit about the show. Is it going to be different from what we've seen before? Is it going to be similar? The floor is yours, as they say.
Okay, thank you very much. So I must apologize. Our Cape Town people were overexcited there. We opened on the 6th of September and they've
Oh,
sent
okay.
me. So my apologies there, but we open on Friday, the 6th of September,
Right.
and we run until Sunday, the 22nd of September. And the show is very different in that, of course, it's the task of every stand-up comedian. People have to laugh. No matter what the topic is, they have to laugh. That is the challenge. And previously, I like to talk about what's going on in my life. I mean, when I was in Joburg previously, I spoke about the different worlds from moving from stand-up to musical theater and how
Mhm.
difficult it was for me to suddenly be working with 20 people on a stage every night, and then I have to share the check. And in that show, and I think, David, the interesting thing about this show is I could not have done it at any other time other than now. I think sometimes work meets us in
Mhm.
terms of where we are in our lives and how prepared we are to talk about things and how we talk about things. So this show, in part, it deals with ancestry, about where I come from, because, there is this explosive issue going around in South Africa over the past, I'd say 18 months or 2 years about the word colored and the colored identity. And people sometimes discuss it at length on the platform X. Who are colored people really? And do we use the word? How do we use it? How do people feel about using the
Mhm.
word? So, and in our family, I was watching these debates and I read this wonderful book by Tessa Dooms and Lindsay Schutel as well, and talking about how our grandmothers, our parents and great-grandparents don't necessarily discuss where we actually come from. Who are these people at the funeral? And I talk about it at the show because when I was growing up, you'll see very fair people and very dark people at the funeral sobbing uncontrollably. And you turn to your mother and you go, who are those people? And they go, don't worry about that now. Finish your sisters, and we don't need to talk about that. So, so there's a lot of that goes on, and I don't think it's just for me, it's for many South Africans. So I've done the ancestry test as well, which revealed great results, which I talk about a little bit in the show. But so I talk a bit about that, about my mom and my dad, very interestingly, where my granny came from, and whispers, things that we were not really supposed to know. And then I also talk about growing up, as little gay Marc, and not knowing that you're gay, and then discovering that you are, and then moving on to being straight Marc because you in the church, and maybe one day you're going to be a pastor, and everything will be okay, and having a beautiful woman in my life as well. So these things I've not spoken about on the stage before. They're very, very personal, as you can hear.
Mhm.
And for me, when I was talking to the director about the show and we spoke about the approach, I thought, how on earth, because when it comes to personal issues, when it's really close to home, how do you make it funny? It's okay to be making fun of the cashier. It's
Mhm.
okay to be making fun and having fun with Auntie Mo, the lady who lives in this freestanding house in Athlone. But now it's me and it's personal issues pertaining to me. And so that was the challenge. And the show opened at the Atterbury Theatre in Pretoria. And I'm very happy to say that we received standing ovations. I'm very happy to say to you, David Batsoffen, that people were screaming with laughter as well, which was the biggest relief for me. So it's a beautiful show. It's a personal story about my life, from where I come from to where I am today. And at the same time, as always, I want to make people feel good. Every single person has bought a ticket for the show, and I think we've achieved that. And I'm looking forward to hearing the response from the Joburg audiences.
That will be interesting because I should imagine, and well, as well, Mark, the audiences in different towns react to different things in different ways.
Yes.
Things have changed a little bit because I remember back in the day, if you were a Johannesburg comedian and you went to Cape Town, the Cape Town people didn't laugh at you because most of your jokes were about Cape Town and vice
Yeah,
versa.
exactly.
But
Exactly.
now the sort of the movement back and forth has seemed to do away with that. And Pretoria people are lekker mense. They really are. If they like you, they will stand and they will applaud. Although I know about the Atterbury Theatre, and I know that the only reason you got a standing ovation is that there are no seats in that theatre. The people stand the whole performance.
It's a beautiful theater. And the Pretoria people are really, really nice people, Those are the people, they wait after the show and they want you to come into the foyer and have a gezellige time with them as well. So it was wonderful starting the show off there. I mean, it's interesting because usually I start the show off in Cape Town. And then I tour around the country, and then we go back to Cape Town as a little celebration at the end of the tour. But we did things a little bit differently this time around.
This time
You know,
around.
I like the show because I don't do any characters in the show. And it goes back to a more classic style of storytelling where I can really get in. And for me, because the show is packed with truth, because you cannot lie about family members and where you come from and where you were born and your experience as a teenager. There's nothing better than honesty in a show, and to have so
Yeah.
much truth in the show, so you don't have to stumble over anything. And I think that's why the show is really special for me.
It must be hard though, Mark, when you sat down to design the show, to go, all right, I want to talk about me, but there are still areas that I don't know if these are going to work on stage for whatever reason.
Yeah, of
Are
course.
there still things that you held back and you go, hang on a second, let's see how this show goes, and then it can be Marc Eugene Lottering the second, or the third, or the fourth?
David, I think there are, no matter who you are on the planet, if you jump onto a stage or jump into a book to tell your own story, there are certain paragraphs where you just have to push the delete button and you go, oh, I've got to wait for at least 3 people to die before I before I make people go to the box office and pay to hear this. So no, I think because we are human, we flesh
Yeah.
and blood, and there are certain stories, and sometimes there are stories that you want to tell, but you realize as you're working on them that they are not yours to tell.
Mm.
You might be involved in the story, but they're not yours to tell, and you have to have a fine sense of that. I think there's a very fine line with because you could be, just for the sake of being outrageous and wanting people to come see, you can go, oh, it's no holds barred. I just tell everything. No, I think I'll do that when I'm 108.
It's
But
called clickbait, Mark. You should have just splashed it across
it's
the poster.
called
All
clickbait.
will be revealed.
Exactly.
With
So, yeah.
with that in mind, have you done this show where there've been family in the audience and you've either heard an intake of breath or you've heard a quiet tear being shed because of what you're saying on stage?
I told somebody 2 nights ago, it's a good friend of mine, and they bought tickets for the show. And then they told me where they were sitting. And I said to him, why are you telling me this? He's like, we're so excited. And we beat 14 to 19. And I said, and he looked at me with such disappointment. He's like, my bro, we're supporting you. What's wrong? Look at your eyes. You're looking so sad. I said, because my worst audience members are close friends and family, but people don't seem to understand this. And that is why when you come to watch my show, you'll also always see the lighting in the audience is as dark as possible. Because and that's just for two reasons. I want to see nobody, and then I also want to pretend that it's sold out. So then just go as dark as possible. Because I'll tell you about every comedian, and you know this, with every artist, we won't remember the 400 people laughing. We're going to remember that one woman
Yep.
who rolled her eyes. And no, David, you laughing, but I'm telling you, this is
No,
still
because
true for
it's
me. And I'm
Marcus
already,
happened to me when I've done stand up. And those are the people that your eyes are drawn to them. And then for the rest of your show, your set, you're looking to them for approval. Everybody else is on the
absolutely,
ground with laughter. And that one person has messed up your entire set.
absolutely. And then you see, and this has happened to me before as well. You're in the middle of a story, and two people get up. And then, oh my word, I want the world to end. And I one day I said this to someone, I said, oh wow, these people got up. And then the one person said, no, 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 no. They were in our group, and her husband's on standby. He's like a medical practitioner or something. If his phone went off, and
Mm.
that's why see the stories you could
Yeah.
run with and leave. But to come back to your question about the family who watch my show, when I'm done with the show, I don't go onto the family WhatsApp group because there's always somebody who's gone back to the group to say, hey, he's talking about you. I praat weer van jou. Because I also can't stop myself from mentioning the names. So not alone do I say that every family has a woman in the family who loves wearing leopard print and she's got a leopard print spirit, and other women are always watching her around their husbands because she's got a cat suit and her hair's hanging over her left eye. Then I don't just stop there and I go, then I say, like in my family, it's Auntie Desiree. And half the audience screams because like there are 20 people in the audience who know Auntie Desiree, and they go, yes, that is her. Every woman watches their husband around Auntie Desiree. So I just somehow feel, I don't know how the audience knows this, but when I say Auntie Desiree, they immediately know that I'm not lying. They
Mm.
immediately know the truth. It's not a name that I made up. And I think it's how you say it and the spirit behind it. So it's tricky. You don't want to go to the family WhatsApp group. Having said that, though, I also try to make sure when it comes to my comedy and my storytelling, I never want to hide from anybody afterwards. I never want to be in a supermarket and see David Batsoffen and know, oh, I said something ugly about David in the show. He was there, and now I'm going to hide behind the handy Andy because I feel so bad. I never want to be in that position. There are other comedians who just go for it.
Yeah.
And but so I try I still believe my ultimate goal, and this is always interesting for me, and I talk about it in the show because my father was a pastor, and one day I was doing an interview, and a journalist said to me, "But don't you think, Mark, that you are still very much a pastor in what you do? Because people who run churches, ultimately, they are all about making other people feel good, or that
Mm.
should be their mission. You should go to church to feel good." And the journalist said, and that's how I feel when I watch your comedies. So you're kind of continuing with that trend still. So I want to always know that I've made people feel good. I'm not in the business. I don't like cutting people down and
Mm.
making them feel beautiful after the show. So even when it comes to family members, I make sure when I describe Auntie Des, I do say that she is really, really hot looking for, and she's 60 something, but she still has the fire of that leopard spirit. So yes, they are good things.
Mark, take me back to Mark at school. What were you like as a 16, 17, 18-year-old?
Well, my hair was very short. And because my mother kept our hair short, and she told us that, and I talk about it in the show as well, because she said to me, oh, when your hair grows, because she said, you Mark, you were a very fair baby. People when I walked around with you in the gardens in Cape Town, people all the time said to me that your madam has a lovely baby. And my mother would tell the story with great pride, not realizing that half the lounge is going, oh, that's quite a hectic thing to say to you. But and then she kept the hair short as well, because I grew up at a time where it's painful, but when you're growing up in it, it's
Mm.
normal to the emphasis was on being, if you're fair, then you're doing really well. And if you live in a freestanding house and you're speaking English first language, that was the thing. So of course, I was a little bit of a strange one for the family, because yes, while I was fair, then there was the Charlie Weir patch and the Jimi Hendrix afro. So my parents kept my hair short. My mother did, and she said, "Nah, keep your hair so short, because when your hair grows, Mark, you've got a blonde curl that just hangs over your left eye." Well, I'm still waiting for that blonde curl. But as a youngster, David, I think half of my up until about 12, I was rather quiet. I didn't, I don't think academically, I don't think I was, shining. Although now there are teachers who come to watch my show, and they ex-teachers or ex-principals, and they come to me after the show, and they go, "Oh, I just knew there was something about you. We just
Jy
knew you
lig
were very
man.
far." Hulle lig. They're just looking for more complimentary tickets. But I get it. They celebrate me because I love teachers. And I talk about the important teachers in my life when I
Mm.
was at school, the ones who didn't know they were lifesavers, but they are
Yeah.
lifesavers. So I was quiet, and I think, sitting towards the back of the class, maybe. And I think I kind of came out of my shell around 15. Because then there was the extramural activity, and you could join the drama class, and you're also battling with the idea of, because you don't know you're gay, but you walk past people and suddenly you hear the word morphine,
Mm.
and you go, oh goodness me, that I should bring that under control immediately. Maybe keep my hands in my pocket when I walk, because I can't walk doing all the moves from Chicago the musical. So so you learn
Jazz hands, step ball change.
jazz hands. You can't
Can't
walk
walk.
around second break with jazz hands. Marvel JVs. So so you learn all these things, and the gay people who are watching us now and listening to this interview will know exactly what I talk about. You start to play the games quite early on.
Mm.
Um, and that was the game playing going on with young Mark. Um, so also knowing that there was an interest in theater, but also knowing you somehow need to conform. And that, as a result, I went to UCT and studied law. And I spoke about that in my previous show, because that was looked upon as a a respectable
Mm.
career.
Something to fall
Haha.
back on.
Something to fall back on. But eventually, the UCT people asked me if I would consider leaving, because I was doing my BA degree over 6 years, and they said, it's a little bit awkward taking up some space here. So it's been a very interesting journey. But I think all these things that happen to us in our lifetimes, well, certainly in my life, what a
Mm.
privilege it is to be able to talk about it,
Yeah.
and to be able to have other people who want to come and celebrate with you and listen to these stories. I think for me, and even with the musicals that we've done, is the most precious thing for me is to meet people afterwards, and you see the way in which they speak to you. Um, it's just they go, and that's partly my story,
Yeah.
or we are going through the same thing. And I tell you what's been happening, and I don't know if in my old age I'm turning into being a real softie, although I've always been a softie. But the messages that I now get, my inboxes when people watch shows, where they go, do you know, Mark, our family was going through the worst times, and one of the messages I received was someone saying, my dad was really ill and he had cancer. And one of the things he said he wanted to do was go and watch a Marc Lottering show. And they said for them as a family, their memory that they cherish is seeing their father in that theater crying with laughter.
Yeah.
Spite of what they were going through. And that again, I mean, it's bringing me to this side of my career at this time where I talk about that as well. It's just we are not just making jokes. You suddenly realize I'm not just making jokes.
You're
We're
making
doing something
connections that
more
which
than
you
that.
don't even know about, Mark. Like that
Absolutely.
particular
Which
fellow.
means I should be charging more for my tickets, David. I
Well,
mean, because you're
you should,
doing so
with
much.
a psychology and degree in comedy, you should get everybody to lie down, Mark. Like lie on the couch.
Oh, wow.
And then you
Out
tell,
with all those seats out, let Peter to read,
like,
listen to this. No more
yes,
seats at Monica Casino
and then,
Theatre, just long couches.
yeah, and then you tell a joke. And when you get a response, and then that particular woman, the one we spoke about earlier, then you turn to her directly, you go, so how did that make you feel? And then you can work with
Absolutely.
it.
It will be a sellout. People much prefer lying on a couch and getting some therapy. I mean, that's the world we live in.
This is
So yeah.
exactly it. Is your show, what, 90 minutes one off, or do you break for an interval?
I strive for my show to be 80 minutes
Okay.
because I really want to get home because there's so much that I still need to watch on TV. So but I like an 80-minute show, and and then there's usually a 9-minute standing ovation. It's too much for me, David.
At your age,
Um,
you've got to go
at,
and lie down. A cup of tea and a
at
biscuit.
my age, it's just too much. So I don't do an interval also. So we hope for an 80-minute show. Usually the way things go, it goes between 80 and 90 minutes.
Right. And do you stop afterwards? Do you join the Mensa in the foyer and have a geselligheid, or do you just sneak out the back way?
No, I like to, if there are people who are waiting for me, I like to say hello to them because for
Mm,
some people, that's the only time that they're really going to get to see you or get a
yeah.
picture. So I enjoy doing that. And we've just come from Australia and New Zealand where, we went into the foyer to chat to people as well. And then I said to them, I actually can't wait to get back to South Africa and South Africans because it's sad, especially here in Joburg. For example, the headline news in Melbourne when we were
Mm.
there, and it stopped whatever was going on. It said, breaking news, a caravan and a car belonging to one family has just been stolen. That was their breaking news. And I watched that and I said, I can't wait to get to Joburg. I mean,
That's done on what do you mean, one caravan and one car?
one caravan and one car belonging to one family has been stolen. And I think when it was breaking news for them, shame, because they said the family was still in the caravan and off they went on the highway. I said in Joburg that would just be normal. I mean,
Yes.
in fact, we'll be grateful the families in the caravan. They'll say, "Oh no, we need to stop here, there, and somewhere we're saving on petrol." Let them
Exactly.
take.
So
So
was it this show that you did there, or was it a different show that
no,
you did there?
no, we did a different show there. I was working with another comedian, a wonderful comedian, Alfred Adrian, and we're
Mm,
doing a show called Alfred and Mark. We didn't think the show would take off as it did,
mm.
and it has, and we've been taking that around the country as well, where we do our best material. So that's been, and I do some character work in that show as well. So that's also been really, really well received. But I'm loving this show because now I can come back. There's nothing like doing people say a one-man show, that is so scary. And that's true because when you're working, like when I'm with Alfred or when I'm with the musicals, you can look at other people on the stage when something doesn't go right. And you all share that moment and we go, that wasn't supposed to happen, or somebody farted, or look at the person in the third row. But that's the joy of sharing the stage. But the beautiful thing about being working alone, when you take that bow, you just go, this EFT, it's all mine. I don't have to
Share it with anybody.
anybody. My sweat is on the stage and it's all mine.
And the
So,
cash is
so
in my bank account.
in my bank account. Give a little bit to Peter Turin.
Yes.
So a little bit though, he's been very nice about that. So So I look forward to being on stage back in the solo show genre again. And yeah, it's in my bones. It's what I started out doing, and I love doing this. And then again, this very personal show.
Yeah.
It's going to be so cool to share that with people.
So bring tissues, mense. Trana.
Don't know. As jy tissues bring, jy gaan lag. David, don't tell people that they're
No,
going
but they must bring tissues because they're going to laugh. People cry when
because
they
they're
laugh.
going.
Yes.
Yes, because
I'm
they're
not saying it's
laugh.
going to be a snort and trana show. It's going to be
good.
joyous and wonderful, and we're going to fall off our chairs. And I'm in A3 just as a matter of interest on Sunday, man.
Wow. Thank
no,
you,
I'm
David.
not. I have no idea where I'm sitting.
And now I'm going to look at A3 all the time.
Yeah,
and
but I won't be
whoever's
there.
sitting there, I'm going to go, oh, my goodness me, she's got to be it. So, yeah, we'll see. I'll look out for you.
The show, Marc Eugene Lottering, opens here in Johannesburg on Friday the 6th, which is just a few days away. If you haven't bought tickets by now, it's at Monte Casino. It's at the Peter Turin Theatre there. Joburg, if you haven't seen a Marc Lottering show, go. If you have, you've already bought your tickets because you know what you're in for. It's going to be a wonderful, wonderful evening. Marc, I look forward to seeing the show. I look forward to seeing you again, my friend. It has been far too long. So once again, September 6th to the
22nd.
To the 22nd, Monte Casino. And don't do what Joburg always does, which is wait for reviews and for word of mouth. And then they try and go on the last weekend and they can't get tickets and they go, but I waited. I couldn't get tickets. Rubbish. Book your tickets now.
David, can I just say something? They already told me Friday's full. They said Saturday night is getting close to full. So it's starting off on a good weekend. And of course, we've got guests in on Friday as well.
Yeah.
But we've got matinees on Saturday and we have a matinee on a Sunday.
Correct.
And those are via web tickets. So if you're a matinee person, this is happening for you as well. So and it's a limited run. So please get your tickets by web tickets.
Marc Eugene Lottering on at the Peter Turin Theatre at Monte Casino from this Friday. Don't miss it. My name is David Batsoffen. He's Marc Lottering. This has been In Conversation With.